This is TWiT.
Somebody, I think, got an early Christmas present, I'm thinking, because I saw a picture from Mr. Rene Ritchie of a steel gray iMac Pro there. Did you get one?
What a machine. What a machine, Leo.
Tell us about it.
So that's, I regretfully couldn't make it last week because flights kept getting canceled. I was hoping to get in earlier enough to do it, but it was a storm. So I got there late, and Apple had this, it wasn't like a full-on event, but they had a bunch of Apple people and a bunch of developers who had been using the iMac Pro for a while. I think some of them were a few days, some of them were weeks, some of them were probably longer than that. And they just sat down and basically gave us the story of what it was like to use it in video production. And they had HTC Vives making VR apps, and they had audio engineers there, and they had the Final Cut.
That must have been fun. Like, that's an amusement park for geeks.
And it's so cool to see, like, one of the things that Apple is famous for is they go on these flights of fantasy. Like, what if we took an iMac and without making it a millimeter different, we just stuffed everything we could, like server grade, close to server grade parts in there. So you have Xeon W, and you have ECC RAM, and you have Vega Pro graphics, and you have memory soldered onto the board, and you have 4 big DIMMs and it just, what can we do to trick this out to make it the ultimate hypercomputer, and what would the results be? And then they did it. Wow. And it isn't like the modular Mac Pro and the Pro Display that's coming next year. But for people who love, like, especially there are a lot of people in production environments or client sides of production environments who wanted something clean that they could put on their desk but demo in real time. That was the thing we heard over and over again. It's real time. We have an architectural model in real time. We have Cinema 4D in real time rendering stuff. We have Cinema 4D, by the way, they had 2 eGPUs off the back of their iMac Pro, and they wouldn't tell us how many they could actually use because Apple hadn't fixed on a number yet. But they're just like, yeah, we can crank that up.
Now, did you get to take one on, tuck one under your arm and take it home?
No, I mean, it's really hard because I'm in Canada and I don't know what they're doing for U.S. people, but I'm hopefully going to have one to play with sooner rather than later.
So these are based on your impressions at in Cupertino. It was on campus?
Yeah. No, it was, well, the one I went to was in New York. I'm sure they had something on campus.
Oh, okay.
The East Coast.
I am jealous. That sounds like a lot of fun.
The people there really liked it. I mean, the people who are using it, like the pros, really seem to like it.
You're the pro.
I haven't bought one yet.
Yeah, interesting.
Number one is
$5,000 is not too much for a pro.
Oh no, I don't think the price is the issue. We're probably going to get some, but
upgradability, is that an issue?
Well, the issue that I have is mostly that Apple's history of the first release of an architecture is usually a little funky. So
Rev A boards.
I'm kind of just waiting to see how the chipset, how the board
wait for
works.
the Rev B.
Yeah, Rev B is usually a good thing, or sometimes Rev C. But to spend that kind, I guess for me, to spend that kind of money on it, I kind of want to see how it matures, and also I want to see what the more powerful ones look like too. I mean, I think some of
these are only 10 core. They're going to do up to what, 16 core eventually.
18. Yeah, the 8 and the 10 are out now, and the 14, the surprise 14, which we weren't expecting, and the 18 come out next year. But both Apple and the developers were they said it depends on your workload. Like people who do machine learning might skew towards the 18 core, but for most people, the 10 core has the highest turbo frequencies, and it gives you 10 cores plus the highest turbo frequencies, and that was the one that a lot of people seem to be gravitating.
We should mention that this is not necessarily the fastest Mac if you're looking for single core performance, right?
Right.
No, it's a good blend.
But I think
it's really for people who know that their apps are going to be multi-core. They're going to take advantage of 10 or 8, 10.
Well,
14 or 16
apps. What I want to do is I want to take
multiple apps at the same time.
I want to. There's a handful of operations.
So I'm sorry. Let me I just want to get this clear. So the Mac OS takes advantage of all the cores.
Yes.
So if I launch multiple applications, it'll intelligently assign applications to individual cores. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the demo they showed was launching 3 simulators, like the iPhone 10, the regular iPhone, the iPad simulator, all within Xcode, then having Linux in one VM, Windows 10 in another VM, an older version of macOS in another VM, and the Windows was running Chrome, by the way, at the same time. And they're showing that they had almost zero impact on each other. Like,
and I bet these were all 128 gigabyte RAM, the maxed RAM, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's part of it, by the way. So 128 gigs of RAM, 8 to 16 cores, although the bigger ones will be later. But the clock speeds are... So, if, for instance, if you're running a game that you want to just own the machine, and it's not a multi-core game, which I think most are not,
Well, a lot of the games are leaning on the GPU anyway. I mean,
yeah. This is the best GPU Apple offers. Yes, right.
And some people are still upset that it's not NVIDIA, but Apple has a working relationship with AMD that they don't have with NVIDIA, and they will get completely out of the way as much as is technically possible and just let you hit that video card straight on if you want to, and that seems to give them really good performance.
It's weird because if you pay more money and you get more cores, but the clock speeds go down. So the 8-core is the fastest clock speed. The 18 core is 2.3 gigahertz compared to 3.2, but it does have turbo boost. My only point being, it's hard. People who should buy this are people who know that they're using Final Cut.
Well, and if you're going to spend that kind of money, if you're going to spend $13,000 or whatever on a computer, you should know. Is this really? And those are the kind of people that are going to buy. That are going to buy this. When the issue is, a lot of people say, I've seen people posting like, this is crazy, $13,000 or $5,000.
The max hardware is $13,199.
For the people who are going to buy a Pro, they are the people who, the cost of labor, the cost of their time, the cost of waiting, the cost of making deadlines. That's why you buy a Pro. If $5,000 it seems like a lot of money for you for a piece of hardware, then don't buy it. I mean, go get an iMac. I have an iMac at home. I love it.
But even if you had loads of money, it wouldn't necessarily be the right choice. Depending on what you do with your Mac.
Yeah, but if you have loads of money, that's not the issue.
I have unlimited funds, but I want to play a video game. It may not be the right choice.
It may not be any better. I think that it would probably be great, but it probably, with the GPU and everything else. But I think that there's certain things that I'm interested in testing on it, which is PhotoScan, which does photogrammetry. To put it in perspective, on my iMac, which is it's the latest iMac that's pretty decked out. It took I turned 140 photos in India into 93 million points.
Holy cow.
And that took about 6 days. Fortunately, I was traveling, so I just turned it on and went cooking. And then I checked in on it. But this
would be presumably
if this became overnight, that would be a huge thing for me. Yeah. And even if I could do lower res previews, right now they take 4 or 5 hours just to see how it's working. Whereas this could be something that I could see in half an hour. Another one is something like Cinema 4D. I'm sure that they'll release Cinebench, stuff that will help figure that out. But I bet you things like Cinema 4D and 3D apps are going to benefit a lot from this compressor. I can only imagine
compressor
how
is
fast.
multi-core.
It'll take full advantage of that.
Final Cut got 360 video and 6K support to go along with this.
Right. Well, Final Cut. We're going to be talking a lot about Final Cut tomorrow night.
And one of the reviews, which we talked about last week, talked about 8K video.
It's coming,
and this is fast enough to have an 8K workflow.
Yeah,
that's remarkable.
Yeah, and that's
because I remember when you started shooting this show in 1080, it took you days.
Yeah, it was horrible,
and no one could watch it.
Yeah. Well, and then we've done 4K. We had the same crash on the rocks when we did 4K about 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And we saw Blackmagic.
This would eat 4K, no problem.
Oh yeah, it wouldn't even think about it. And my current iMac does that. We saw Blackmagic release 8K cards, capture cards, I think a week or two ago, and we were like, well, that means there's 8K cameras coming in NAB. It's like
so. Interestingly, if you're going to buy this, you're stuck. It's not upgradable. This is
the RAM is, but you have to take it into Apple or a service center to get them to change it for you.
So you can they can open it up, or if you're careful.
So they had to move the slots higher up, so you can't get them from the bottom anymore. But a service center can just pull it off and stick them in, and then replace them for you.
So the only thing you can upgrade is the RAM. Although if you were wily enough, you probably could upgrade the hard drive.
So a lot of it is soldered. Like it's not actual components; it's chips. That's how they get a lot. Like they're getting a pretty amazing throughput, and they're getting it by connecting everything straight onto the board.
And so there's nothing replaceable.
Which also makes it cheaper. I mean, I know it's expensive, but it's cheaper than it could have been.
Yeah.